everybody, Vic with the Maker Shop here, and today we're talking about a jigsaw table. It's an inverted jigsaw that works kind of like a bandsaw. And for those of you that are worried about having switches and electrical issues and stuff like that because you're not an electrician, don't worry. I use a very cool switch that's meant for a very different application that works perfectly here, and no wiring needed. Yes, no wiring needed. Stay tuned.
All right, guys, let's get into it. And we are making this project out of a half-inch sheet of plywood. I actually bought these two 2-foot by 4-foot sheets at a big box store. And but it's obviously much cheaper if you bought a full sheet of plywood and just cut it down yourself. Heck, you could even have a big box store get that cut down. So I'm ripping these down into 12-inch pieces. They're 12 by 24. And it's gonna be the tops and the sides and the bottom and all of it. It's very simple. So now I'm actually cutting out like a cleat, a support. It's for the jigsaw. It's actually the same size as the base. And you'll see here in just a second that I will get this thing dropped in. I'm sanding down some of the edges just so that it will fit nice and neat. And when I'm done, we got this. So it actually seats the jigsaw perfectly, and that's going to be the bottom of the top. And I showed you those two measurements there, 6 inches and 11 inches. 11 inches from the end, 6 inches in from either side. That gives us the center point. That's where our blade is going to come up through the top deck. So now here I'm just kind of trimming it out, and I'm being very safe there. Don't worry about it. And so these two pieces are going to get connected. So now I'm just wiping everything down so that I can get them all glued up. And so I'm going to start doing this gluing process. And I don't know if you saw the mistake. I've already made a mistake in this build. And matter of fact, I'm going to point it out right about now. Yep. I shouldn't have put glue where the hole is for the jigsaw because I'm going to have to clean that up later. But I went ahead and covered this thing with ample glue. I want these things to be forever bonded together. And so now I'm going to get that positioned, and let's go throw on a few clamps. Or all of them. Let's do all of them. Well, I'm not putting my pipe clamps on, but yeah. So no, lots of clamps. And I'm even going to try and get as much as I can in the middle as well. Throwing these 2x4s as like cawls across the entire thing, using some F clamps there to reach in a little bit further toward the center. And ultimately it came out fine. You know, it's no big deal. But I wanted to get this top done before I worked on everything else because I knew that I was going to have to glue that up. So order of operation is very important. I will make some order of operation errors in here. And and of course I'm going to point them out, and I left them in. So because you know what, I'm human, and if you guys can see my mistakes, then you won't make them. Now here I'm marking out for some holes. These are the side panels for the jigsaw table. And basically I'm going to cut some holes in the bottom of the side panels so that you could attach clamps from either side, from the ends. This thing, you could clamp it 15 different ways. So now I'm just cutting these little pockets out, cleaning things off with my blower. So now you can see where those pockets are going to be so that you could slide some clamps in there and clamp it down to multiple surfaces. Now I'm doing a crap ton of pocket holes. I know I did more than I needed to, but I wanted this thing to be sturdy, and it is certainly that. So of course here I'm, you know, figuring out, okay, I want it in the center. And this pocket hole jig, this is not a Craig jig. This is actually an aluminum body. It's called Massca. And I bought this thing on or Massca, something like that. I'll put a link with its name down in the description below. But it's a full aluminum body. This thing is rock solid, and I bought it on sale around Father's Day, I think it was. And it is just a fantastic jig for pocket holes. And I put it through its paces today, that is for sure. I just have it mounted to a couple 2x4s so that no matter what surface I'm on, I have ways that I could clamp it to a workbench, to sawhorses, whatever. So having a shop that's kind of portable means that I need to figure out ways to make everything portable. So here I'm getting everything lined up and setting the screws in, getting the clutch dialed in so that I don't drive too deep, because I did end up driving a little too deep with a couple of these screws and put a small scratch in the top of my my table saw. So I was kind of bummed about that. But getting these sides put together, and I know that everything is all square, and man, this thing is already feeling solid. Once that glue dries, it's going to be even better. So now I'm actually working on the front face of the table. This is the back. And the back is really just kind of there to hide some cables and to add a little bit more shear to it. So I'm, of course, more pocket holes. And when you're doing 1/2 inch, this hole that I'm cutting here, you'll understand what it's for in just a few minutes. But that Forstner bit knocked it out really quick. Yeah, I went with the full front face here just because we're putting a switch on it. And the switch that we use is fantastic. I'll talk about that in a second. But here's another order of operation thing. I should have cut this hole before I put everything together. This is the side access so that I can get to the speed, the trigger, all the things on the actual jigsaw that you might want to get to without having to take it out. So you can see I cleaned up the glue. This is the top here. I cleaned up the glue. Now I'm just hitting it with the sander just to kind of smooth out the two pieces. And now I'm having to clean up that glue that was left over in the middle where I shouldn't have put glue in the first place. See, if I'd put glue on the piece with the cutout, then I would have, well, obviously there would have been nothing there to put glue on, but it is what it is. Now, at this point, I am in the stages of actual heat exhaustion. While I'm making this video, I'm actually going through the first stages of heat exhaustion. And one of those was my thought process was just off. And I will point it out in a minute here. Everything looks fine at this angle. And it's the fact that I put glue along the back edge, even though that's the front edge at this point. Even though it's inset. And so it didn't actually need glue there. As you can see right there, watch, I'm going to point it out. No, bad. Yeah, I was struggling to get as much of this done as I could without pushing myself too much harder. So here we are. This is actually the next day. My tripod wasn't working right. So I changed up my plan a little bit and I went with these just little interlocks. These are just little scrap pieces of the plywood that I drilled holes in and used pocket hole screws, and it holds this thing super tight, especially with the weight of the jigsaw holding up against it. And those screws are going through 2 pieces of plywood there. So it locks the front end in. Then I'm showing you what I'm using, these like cam locks. It's kind of like a cam lock, I guess, to hold the back half of the jigsaw in place. So yeah, these worked out fantastic, and you'll see them here. There they are. So it's fully locked in, and I have those things set super tight. And of course, we're pushing against the top piece of plywood, so it's not just open air up there. So we're creating a good bit of pressure there, and those things work fantastic. They latch really strong into place. So here's the button. This is called an air switch, and it's designed for garbage disposals. It's designed for wet areas. That's meant to be mounted on your sink or on your countertop. That's the connecting hose that hooks to the switch. So yeah, like I said, you need to know nothing about electricity to get this to work. And this costs like 25 bucks on Amazon. And if I get some water splashed on it or something happens, I know that I'm not going to screw up the switch. Here I was looking at that gasket, realized it doesn't matter because I'm not mounting it onto a surface where it would leak. So this comes in various styles. I just got this brushed style here. It comes black, white, bronzed, this brush style, a stainless look. And it works fantastic. It works flawlessly. You basically push that hose into the end of the switch, and then you route your hose to the back of the box where you're mounting this actual plug. And that was a great save for my my punch there for it rolling off. I had to kind of brag about that a little bit. So yeah, that's nice and sturdy. It's not going anywhere. Now, what do we do with the cord for the saw, the jigsaw? Well, I happen to have these wonderful little Velcro straps. I've got a whole roll of these things, and they are perfect for this application. And I'm working on the hose. These are clips that I've had forever, and I honestly couldn't tell you where they are. They're cable, they're like coax clips that you could attach to studs and stuff like that if you're doing attic work. The hole in them is a little bit bigger than this hose, so the hose can freely move. I'm not worried about that. I'm just trying to keep the hose up out of the way. So that's why I used 3 of them total. And like I said, I've had those things for years, back from when I was installing home theater systems and, satellite dishes and stuff like that. So I've had a collection of those things forever. And I'm like trying to figure out why this hose won't go in. And then I'm like, well, hold on. Let me turn it so I can see it better because I don't want to bump the camera. I realized this cap actually unscrews and it's compression fitting. So now I just need to feed the hose through it first. Now that I know what I'm doing, I can turn it around, feed this through. Now I can set the hose, and then when I screw that fitting back on, it squeezes that hose to make a good connection. Because basically when you push the button on the front, you're pushing air through this hose, and the air interacts with that little switch box on the back, and it turns the power on and off. So you don't have to worry about any wiring diagrams or anything like that. And these things are used in kitchens every single day. I wish I had known about them sooner. I would have been using them a long time before then. So now I'm just kind of getting everything put back into place here. And we're going to start finishing steps. And we're getting close. So here's the test. Here's the big test. And there we go. Yep, it is working perfect. Get the big thumbs up. And now we just have like real finishing steps here for dramatic effect, So now I'm actually doing a test. This is a scrap piece of from when I was making the flags the other day. And I wanted to see how well it was actually going to work versus the way I was doing it with clamps and moving it and all that stuff. And this is phenomenal. There's a little bit of deflection there. There's always going to be deflection. It's a freaking jigsaw. But it cut much better than me freehanding with the jigsaw with the flag I did. And as you can see, it gave me a beautiful cut. And like I said, I'm not aiming for fine woodworking here. This is all going to be power carved anyway. Remember that this box is a jig to help me make flags faster. That's what this is for, because I don't have a bandsaw. So it worked fantastically. I mean, and you can see that, when I marry it back up with its other piece, now I'm just kind of hosing around here. I'm just kind of messing around. But yeah. All right. So I'm going to kind of soften the edges a little bit, throw a little round over in. I'm going to sand things down. And I don't know why I didn't take the blade out sooner, just so I could just do it all in one go. And I'm just hitting it lightly with 220. All right, guys. So now we're going to finish wrapping up here. I'm throwing some paste wax on. And remember to go with the grain for your first coat. Let it haze up and then buff it out. So that is going to wrap it up. And I will give you my final thoughts in just about a second.
All right, guys. There you have it. The Jigsaw Table. It's not as good as a bandsaw, but it's a far sight better because you can control your wood a whole lot better than you can control that blade. And it gives you much, much more control when you're doing curved cuts. Of course, this is not fine woodworking. Remember, I built this to essentially be a jig to help me build flags faster. Because when I built my first American flag, see the video here somewhere, or here, either one. It took a long time. I noticed that I was cutting 13 stripes to the pattern, and it took a long time because I could cut a little bit, then I had to reposition, clamp, and then cut a little bit more, and then reposition, clamp, and it took several minutes to cut one piece. Now, let's say it took me 3 minutes to cut one stripe before, now it's going to take me 30 seconds. That is a lot of time saved when I'm planning on making a lot of flags. So taking the time now to build this thing is going to help me much more in the long run. So I'm not worried that I can see a screw hitting here. I'm not worried that this hole that I cut out so that when I reach in isn't perfect and the router bit kind of dug in a little bit. This is a piece of shop furniture. It's a shop tool that I'm going to use and I'm going to abuse. I'm going to be putting lots of coats of the paste wax on here because it glides stupid nice. It's so smooth now with the paste wax on here. And this is going to help me get a lot more done. And getting more done in a shorter period of time is definitely something that you want to do when you're in a shop in Texas that has no AC. So yeah, you want to get in, get out, get the glue up, and just leave it alone. So would I do anything differently if I rebuilt this? I don't think so. The 1/2-inch ply was a good call. At first, I was worried that I may have been kind of hosing myself because going with the 1/2-inch, maybe it wasn't going to be thick enough, maybe it wasn't going to be secure enough. This thing is ridiculously strong. When I am done using it, when I go to relegate it in the shop for some other purpose because I have a bandsaw or whatever, this will probably be a step stool because it's only 12 inches high, but this thing is rock solid. I have it attached here to a couple sawhorses, and it doesn't go any. I mean, the sawhorses are moving. There's no racking. I would feel totally comfortable stepping up on and down on this thing. Between the pocket holes and the glue, and the cross supports with the whole front plate, the back plate supporting the bottom for shear, flipping over boards. This thing is incredibly strong, and I don't think I would change anything. My squeeze clamps work perfect in the holes that I cut on the side. Plus, you can clamp on the front or the back. You can span across sawhorses or something like that, and you wouldn't have to worry about this flexing. This thing isn't going anywhere. And yeah, so I'm I'm certainly not redoing, but I'm going to be doing a variation of my first flag video, which should be somewhere around in here, right? And I'm going to do the glue up before I do the power carving. So I'm going to cut my strips, then glue them all together, then I'm going to power carve because I'm making a Texas flag, and since a Texas flag is very simple, white stripe, red stripe, blue field on the left third. This is my left, by the way, so if it's not your left in the video, understand camera, angles, mirrors, ooh, magic. Anyway, so I may be doing another flag video with that variation, talking about, just quickly showing you what I'm going to do with it, and then talking about the differences and which one I like better. So look forward to that in the future. I'm going to be doing cornhole boards here in the next couple weeks, I hope. I've got other shop. I have to get a workbench. I have to get this place organized. It is ridiculously unorganized right now. And I spend far too much time looking for a tool that should be within arm's reach. And so I definitely need to work on organization in here. I'm going to be building a couple workbenches, one specifically for my miter saw, one specifically for my job site saw, my Delta, and they're going to all be portable and stuff like that. So stay tuned. Got some great shop videos coming out. Got some great project videos coming out. So stay tuned. And until next time, this is Vic with the Maker Shop saying this has been the greatest day in my life. Now go build some. See ya. What's going on, everybody? Draco and Victor. Hey everybody, Vic with the Maker Shop here today, and today we're talking about a bandsaw. How about here? Is this a good one? Can you hear me clearly? Hey everybody, Vic with the Maker Shop. If you see some of my cuts in this video and they're not very good, just remember, this is a piece of shit.